Hey folks, welcome back to the Mr. Global channel. Today, July's Producer Price Index inflation report for wholesale inflation came out, and it was not good at all. Wholesale inflation for July up 0.9%. It was expected to rise 0.2%. That is significantly hotter and higher than they had planned. So what does that mean for your wallet? What does it mean for investments? What does it mean for interest rates and the Federal Reserve? So why is this important? Why does it matter? We just got inflation numbers the other day. Remember the CPI? 2.7%, 3.1% core inflation. Depending on who you asked, it was great. If you asked a Republican, oh, that's great. If you asked a Democrat, the sky was falling. I don't understand why these two groups of people can look at the exact same thing and be so far apart as to what they're looking at. It's like they're both looking at the sky and can't agree on what color it is. It's either good or it's bad. The fact of the matter is it was up when we're trying to lower inflation. That's never good. There's never anything good about inflation going up after a long inflationary period and working so hard to bring it down. I just can't imagine anything good about that. But the PPI is a leading indicator of future CPI. It is wholesale prices. And what that means is, as economists have been saying, the producers are not going to continue absorbing the cost of these tariffs. It's not a thing. Yes, a lot of them tried it for the first month or two, whatever. Their profits were decimated, right? You look at automakers' profits, just completely decimated, costing them billions of dollars. They're not going to continue absorbing that. They're going to have to pass it on. They're going to absolutely have to, and hope that the American consumer just keeps living on that credit card, just keeps living on that credit card and going deeper and deeper into debt. And so that's what we're going to see happen moving forward. Your prices are going to rise. And after the Bureau of Labor Statistics came out and greatly revised down their job numbers, that actually benefited Donald Trump and his demands to cut interest rates. Because the job numbers were so bad, it was like, hey, the economy's not as great as we're saying it is. Maybe we should cut interest rates. So I think the consensus was we were going to see a 0.5 point cut in September. I think the consensus now after this PPI report is that's not happening. Maybe still see a cut of a 1/4 point, not going to see a 0.5 point. That is the consensus among economists. And so, we will probably celebrate a 1/4 point still. I know the Trump administration will. The Dow Jones is down today. Last time I looked, it was down like 160 or 70 points. That could still go up or down. There's plenty of day left. S&P and NASDAQ was also down. And so, like I said, the experts are now saying tariffs are feeding wholesale inflation, and that completely contradicts everything they've said in the past about it not bleeding down to customers, consumers. And a lot of you right now are probably thinking, we've already seen prices go up. That's what I'm thinking, right? I don't know why it takes so long for us to admit prices are rising. We see it every day when we go buy stuff. And they keep telling us prices aren't rising. Well, I'm sorry. I just went and bought a bunch of stuff, and it was all more expensive than it was a month ago. So what are you going to see at the checkout in the future? We're talking about food. Vegetables was up like 30-something%. Food, travel, and services. Those are first in line. Housing, not so much. Rent, not so much. But a sustained and prolonged increase in PPI inflation would absolutely trickle down and hit housing and rent and shelter in the future, for sure. And the absolute worst case scenario is that this is persistent and it results in more and more rising inflation, which means the Federal Reserve would reverse interest rates cuts and increase interest rates after, good God, we've been trying to bring down inflation since 22. Over 2 years, inflation's been dropping. We get down here to this point where we're just about there. We've gotten a couple of interest rate cuts towards the end of the Biden administration. looking at a potential interest rate cut here, first one in the Trump administration, and it's if this completely reverses, what's going to happen? You know what I mean? Like, would we be looking at another year or two before interest rate cuts occur? Like I said, that's a worst case scenario. It doesn't mean that's what's going to happen. There's obviously other cases, like a mid case scenario would be wholesale inflation moderates and the supply chains adjust. Fed delivers a small quarter point interest rate cut in September, and maybe inflation slowly drifts back towards 2%, right? Potential upside, there could be a drop in energy, food, wholesale costs if CPI stabilizes, and the Fed may skip rate cuts, tipping, more of a soft landing type scenario, which is something we see all the time. For instance, we know that oil prices are going to drop long term and continue dropping for a couple of years. That's going to drive down gas prices at the pump. How will all that impact everything else? What will be the ripple effect of that? I think what we're going to see, we've been told for several years that high gas prices are very inflationary to everything else. They're not as near inflationary as people think they are. That's not to say they're not inflationary, but $5 gas doesn't equate. If the price of gas doubles, it doesn't mean that the price of everything else doubles. It means it goes up a little bit because you're looking at inflation on a per unit basis. So, expect grocery prices to go up, especially vegetables, especially fresh vegetables, right? You might have to buy some frozen vegetables for a bit, off-brand type stuff to save some money. I don't know, but it does appear that food prices are going to rise, which is, in my opinion, the absolute worst thing to rise. It should be the worst. That's the worst. It just is. It's the one thing we need to sustain life. It's going to rise. So the fact of the matter is these wholesale prices are like a big red flashing warning light for the economy. And once again, we're going to get nothing but denial from everyone whose only goal is to show political support for a candidate. It is like they do not care about the truth. They do not care that you're struggling at home. The only thing that matters is Donald Trump cannot look bad for 1 second. It is a thing that cannot happen. We will lie about every number. We will lie about your lived personal daily experience. What you are seeing and believing and going through every single day is a lie, according to them. Because God forbid anything hurt Donald Trump. But there will be a point where this can no longer be denied. They're just will. They're just absolutely will. Donald Trump's poll numbers, I was looking this morning, and I'm not a big poll numbers person, but his polling on inflation is just about as bad as it could possibly be. So that is being widely reported. And like I said, there's going to be a point where even the most staunch lying ass politician cannot deny what is happening. So let me know what you think in the comment section. I really appreciate all my new followers and subscribers. Hope you guys have a great afternoon. See you soon.